There was a little car, who was a fallen star, built in a time that was torrid. When she was good, she was very good indeed, but when she was bad,
the Austin Allegro was horrid.
In 1976, 67-year-old Australian Margaret Walton and her husband Victor visited relatives in the UK. What should have been a happy family reunion was forever marred by a near-fatal car accident. Margaret was a passenger in an Austin Allegro, traveling at between 50 and 60 miles an hour on the M1 motorway, when suddenly the car lost a wheel. The resulting accident left Margaret a quadriplegic. But our story begins 3 years earlier, and just 5 months after the Allegro launch, when a British Leyland product bulletin was sent to accredited dealers. It drew attention to the method of adjusting the Allegro's rear hub bearings, and emphasized the risk of them seizing up if insufficient end float was provided. The document was marked confidential. 2 months later, British Leyland authorized a major modification, the fitting of a special washer, to provide an additional bearing retention safety feature during 12,000 miles services. From the 16th of September 1974, the safety washer was factory fitted. A bulletin of September 25, 1974 also urged the importance of fitting washers when servicing earlier vehicles. Cases of wheel failure had been mounting, with 100 recorded to date in October, including a serious accident in Italy. BL experts thought the problem lay with mechanics unfamiliar with end float adjustment. Over-tightening led to overheating, bearing collapse and wheels coming loose in worst-case scenarios. A limited education program was initiated for distributors' mechanics. Margaret's brother-in-law, Albert Walton, bought an Allegro in November 1974. However, the car was manufactured in February and did not have the larger washers fitted. Throughout 1975 the car was in and out of Dutton Foreshore, the local distributor from whom the car had been purchased, for a number of warranty claims, including 4 clutch replacements. In January, Mr. Walton noticed a noise coming from the rear offside wheel, and the garage fitted the larger washer when they replaced the bearing. Another garage, Blue House, carried out 6,000 and 12,000 mile services in June of 75 and March of 76, adjusting bearings on each side. Then, in April 1976, Albert Walton was driving north near Newport Pagnell with his brother and sister-in-law when the rear near side wheel came off and the car hit the central reservation crash barrier. Victor Walton was thrown clear, but his wife was catastrophically injured. A police vehicle examiner found that the outer bearing had collapsed and the inner cone melted and become welded to the stub axle by excessive heat. Remarkably, that was not the end of the Allegro, or Victor Walton's association with it. The Allegro was repaired by British Leyland on a jig and had only been driven 200 miles when a grinding noise was heard from the rear offside wheel. But this time a safety washer had been fitted and the wheel held firm. In 1978 Victor and Margaret Walton brought an action against British Leyland, Dutton Foreshore, and Blue House. The case against Duttons was, they should have fitted the larger washer to both rear hubs in January 1975. Duttons were in possession of the product bulletin of September 25, 1974. Blue House were not authorized dealers and had not received product bulletins. Nonetheless, their mechanic was aware of the difference between torque and end float and would have theoretically adjusted the bearings properly. However, the judge held that British Leyland's responsibility was total. He believed the product bulletins did not spell out the gravity of the situation, and his contention was that British Leyland should have recalled all cars that did not have the washers fitted because a design that wasn't idiot-proof carried a risk that could only be obviated by a product recall.